28 days before my wedding to Xi Jinping, the whole capital knew I was to become the Xia family's heir's wife. But today, my maid tearfully told me that the Xia family was celebrating a wedding. The groom was my fiancé Xi Jinping. The bride was his widowed cousin-in-law of over a year. Su Liangshui, old Madame Xia, said that cousin Liangshui was pregnant, alone, and pitiful, and that as her cousin, Jinxing had a duty to care for her. Therefore, she was to be welcomed into the family as a co-wife first. Heh, co-wife, care for, pitiful. I remembered that his cousin had been dead for a year and 3 months. I looked in the mirror, slowly putting on a golden kingfisher feather phoenix hairpin and choosing my most magnificent cloud-patterned brocade court dress. My maid grabbed me, crying, "My lady, what are you doing?" I smoothed the last wrinkle on my dress and smiled, a smile brighter than the sun outside. What am I doing? Going to offer my congratulations, of course. My future husband and his cousin-in-law are getting married, and he is about to be a father. Such a joyous occasion. How can I, the rightful fiancé, not be there to personally present a grand gift? Today, I would let the entire Xia family know. My Shen family's face is not so easily slapped. Their joyous occasion. I would personally turn it into a funeral. My personal maid, Yunzhu, still had tears on her face. She looked at my calm, almost cruel smile in the mirror and shivered again. "My lady, you must not! The Xi family is being so outrageous. We should immediately have the master and young master go and confront them to break off the engagement. For you to go there alone, wouldn't that be bringing humiliation upon yourself?" I picked up the eyebrow pencil and carefully drew my brows. Brows like distant mountains, eyes as deep as an abyss. "Yunzhu, you are mistaken. The one who will be humiliated is not I. Confront them. Since the Xi family dared to hold this wedding today, they have already prepared countless excuses to shut us up. It will be the same old story of Liang Shui is alone and pitiful. The unborn child is innocent. Jinxing is a man of great sentiment and righteousness. They have firmly taken the moral high ground, waiting for us to come and cry and make a scene. Then they will play the part of the saints and earn a reputation for making the best of a difficult situation. If I go and cry, it will only make my Shen family's daughter look jealous and intolerant." I put down the eyebrow pencil, and with a fingertip, dabbed a little rouge on my lips. In an instant, my lips were as red as blood, radiant. "So, I cannot go and make a scene. I am going to offer my congratulations." I stood up. My cloud-patterned brocade court dress shimmered in the sunlight. The pattern of 100 birds paying homage to a phoenix, embroidered with gold thread, was lifelike. The phoenix hairpin on my head swayed with my movements, the tassels brushing against my cheek, cold. This was a gift from my mother. For my wedding day, today, I would wear it early. Let them see who was the one who should be wearing this wedding dress. "Yunzhu, prepare the carriage." My voice was soft but held an unquestionable command. "And bring the congratulatory gift. I have prepared for the Xi family. We are going to give the Xi heir and his new wife a grand display of propriety." Yunzhu saw the fire in my eyes. It was not sadness but a crazed, all-consuming battle intent. She stopped trying to persuade me, nodded firmly, and went to make the arrangements. I walked to the window and looked at the bright sunlight. The Xi family. Xi Jing, Xu Lian Shi. You never would have expected this, would you? Your carefully planned moral blackmail, your scheme to force me to submit. In my eyes, it is nothing but a grand farce, about to begin. And I am the one who will personally raise the curtain, and then, personally, bring it down. How can today's wedding be considered complete without me, the rightful fiancé, present? The Shen family's carriage was a 4-horse carriage, a gift from the emperor, with vermilion wheels and a magnificent canopy, a truly impressive sight. I sat inside, my eyes closed in rest. Yunzhu sat beside me, holding a heavy Zeton wood box, her palms sweating with nervousness. The carriage traveled from the Prime Minister's residence in the east of the city to the Marquise's residence in the west. the main street of the capital was bustling with people. Many recognized our family's carriage and stopped to watch and whisper, "Isn't that the Shen family's carriage? Is the young lady getting married?" Nonsense. Her wedding to the She heir isn't until next month. But I heard the She family is celebrating a wedding today. What? What wedding? Who are they marrying? I heard it is the She heir's widowed cousin-in-law, a Miss Sue. The whispers filtered through the carriage curtains. I could imagine the shocked and amused expressions on their faces. Good. I wanted everyone to see that I, Shen Qingyan, had arrived. The carriage stopped in front of the Xia residence, the Marquis of Anyuan's residence. The residence was decorated with lanterns and colored silks, filled with guests, a scene of joyous celebration. The servant at the door saw our carriage, and his smile froze, his face turning pale. He scrambled inside to announce our arrival. I did not wait to be invited. Yunju lifted the curtain, and I gracefully stepped out, her hand supporting mine. When I appeared at the entrance, in all my splendor, the air seemed to freeze. All the guests' eyes were drawn to me as if by a magnet. Shock, pity, schadenfreude, and, most of all, the anticipation of a good show. I ignored it all. I straightened my back, a proper and gentle smile on my face, and step by step, ascended the steps of the Marquise's residence. Every step was like a slap to the Xia family's face. Every step announced my arrival. The steward rushed out and blocked my path, a smile on his face that was more painful than a cry. Miss Shen, why have you come?" I smiled, as gentle as a spring breeze. "Why, Steward She, today is a joyous occasion for the Marquise's residence. As Jingxing's fiancé, am I not welcome to offer my congratulations?" My words left him speechless. "Fiancé." I said those 3 words softly and slowly, but they were like 3 loud slaps to the face of the entire Marquis of Anyuan's residence. I ignored him and walked straight in. The guests automatically parted to let me pass. They looked at me as if I were a female general going to war. No, I was not a general. I was a demon, come to pass judgment. The moment I stepped into the wedding hall, the boisterous noise died down. All eyes were on me. In the center of the hall stood the new couple, Shi Jingxing in his red wedding robes. Should have looked dashing, but his face was pale, and his eyes darted away, not daring to meet mine. Beside him, Su Liangshui, also in red, her face hidden by a veil. But her slightly protruding belly and her hand clutching his sleeve said it all. On the dais sat his parents, the Marquis and Marquise of Anyuan, and the most important person, old Madame Xia. The look of self-satisfaction and cunning on her face had not yet faded when my appearance froze it in place. Her lips trembled. She clearly had not expected me to come, and to come in such a radiant, domineering manner, crashing her good plan. Qingyan? He finally found his voice and called my name dryly. His voice was filled with guilt, panic, and even a hint of resentment, as if my appearance had ruined his good time. I smiled. I looked around, my gaze sweeping over the various expressions on the faces of the guests, and finally settled on his. "Jingxing, it has been a long time. I hope you have been well." My voice was clear and pleasant, with just the right amount of gentleness. "Today is a joyous day for you and your cousin-in-law. As your fiancé, it is only right that I come to offer my congratulations. I came in a hurry, and did not prepare a lavish gift. I hope the old madam, the Marquis, and the Marquise will not mind." My posture was humble and polite, flawless, as if I were truly just a well-mannered fiancé, here to offer her blessings. The expressions on the faces of the Xia family visibly relaxed. Old Madame Xia even managed a small, approving smile, as if to say, "You know your place." She cleared her throat and adopted a matronly tone. "It is good that you have come, Qingyan, that you can be so magnanimous and understanding of Jingxing and Liangshui's difficult situation. I am very pleased. Do not worry. Though Liangshui has married in first, she is only a co-wife. When you marry in next month, you will still be the rightful wife of the heir. We will not treat you unfairly." Her words were grand and righteous. The guests around us began to whisper, "Shen is truly a lady of a great family. Such grace. Indeed, to be able to endure such a humiliation, she will surely be a virtuous wife in the future." Hearing these comments, the smile on my face grew even brighter. Endure a virtuous wife. I'm sorry, but from this day on, those two words have nothing to do with me. Shen Qingyan, the old madam is right, I said, following her lead with a sweet smile. The daughters of the Shen family have always been the most sensible. As I spoke, I gave Yunju a look. She immediately understood, stepped forward, and opened the Zeton wood box she was holding. The moment the box was opened, the guests all gasped. Inside, on a bed of silk, lay a jade rui scepter, carved from a single piece of emerald green jade. The color was so vibrant it seemed to be dripping with water. It was clearly a priceless treasure. Is that imperial green? My heavens, a rui scepter of such a large piece of imperial green jade. Even the palace probably doesn't have many of these. The Shen family is truly generous. The eyes of the She family also lit up, especially old Madam She, whose eyes gleamed with greed. I took the scepter and personally walked up to them. "Jingxing, cousin-in-law, this is my wedding gift to you. I wish you eternal love and many children." I deliberately emphasized the words, many children. Under her veil, her body clearly trembled. He reached out stiffly to take it, but there was no smile on his face. "Qingyan, you..." I didn't let him finish. I pressed the scepter into his hand and turned to the old madam on the dais. My smile even more deferential. "Old madam, you just said that I should be understanding of cousin Liang Shui's difficult situation. I am, of course, understanding. A young widow, all alone, and now with child. It is truly pitiful. As her cousin, Jingxing is a man of great sentiment and righteousness, willing to take on this responsibility and care for his widowed sister-in-law. Such a benevolent act, I greatly admire." My words were sincere and moving. I had laid out all the excuses they had wanted to use but had been too ashamed to say. The expression on the old madam's face completely relaxed, and she was filled with an undisguised smugness. She looked at me as if I were a foolish, weak junior completely under her control. Good child. It is for the best that you think this way." The guests, too. Their expressions changed from watching a show to one of genuine pity and a hint of contempt. Pity for my situation, contempt for my weakness. Good. The atmosphere was set. The fish had taken the bait now. It was time to pull in the net. My smile did not change, but my tone was laced with a well-placed, naive confusion. But I let out a small "ah," as if I had just remembered something crucial. "I have a question that I do not understand. I hope the old madam and the marquis will enlighten me." She was in a good mood and waved her hand. "Speak freely." She thought I was going to ask about trivial matters like my dowry or the wedding arrangements. She already had a set of excuses prepared, to both appease me and to save the Xia family's face. Unfortunately for her, she had guessed wrong. I looked at her protruding belly and said with feigned concern, "I just heard from the servants that cousin Liang Shui is over 3 months pregnant. Is that so?" At my words, the atmosphere in the hall grew tense. The smile on her face froze, but she still nodded. "That is correct. That child has had a hard life. By the time she found out she was pregnant, it was already, in any case, it is our Xia family's blood. We cannot let it wander outside." She was vague, trying to brush it off, though the guests also found the timing a bit strange. Since it was a joyous occasion for the Xia family, no one dared to press the matter. They just assumed that the widowed cousin-in-law had conceived before her husband's death and had just discovered it late. But I was determined to tear down that thin veil. 3 months pregnant. I counted on my fingers, my expression serious. That is truly strange. My voice was not loud, but it carried through the silent hall. I remember very clearly that the eldest cousin, cousin Liang Shui's late husband, died of a plague in the army last spring. From his death to today, it has been exactly 1 year and 3 months. That is, a full 15 months. With every word I spoke, the faces of the Shia family grew paler. His hand was trembling, the priceless jade scepter almost crushed in his grip. She was shaking like a leaf, and the expressions on the faces of the guests went from watching a show to shock, disbelief, and a dawning disgust. No one was a fool. 1 year and 3 months, 15 months, 3 months pregnant. This simple math problem did not need me to spell it out, but I was going to spell it out. Not only was I going to spell it out, but I was going to do so in the most innocent, naive tone. And in front of all the most prominent figures in the capital, I was going to throw this filth in their faces. I looked up, with the most innocent, confused expression I could muster, at the old madam on the dais. "Old madam, you are a well-read and reasonable person. Can you tell me? Does a woman not carry a child for 10 months? Why has cousin Liang Shui's child been in her womb for a full 15 months? This is a miracle unheard of. It is truly strange. I remember that the cousin has been gone for over a year. I wonder where this..." Everyone's breath was held. Their gazes were like 1,000 sharp knives, cutting back and forth between him, her, and the old madam. Shock, contempt, mockery, disgust. The once joyous wedding hall had instantly become a courtroom for a scandalous trial. What nonsense are you spouting?" The old madam was the first to react. She shot up from her chair, pointing at me, her whole body trembling with rage. "You venomous woman. How dare you slander Liang Shui's reputation on this day?" I still smiled, a pure, innocent smile. "Old madam, when have I ever slandered? I am just stating the facts and asking for your guidance. Or have I misremembered the date? Did the cousin not pass away last spring?" I looked at the Marquis. "Your lordship, you are the Grand Marshal. The eldest cousin was under your command. You personally reported his death for his pension. Do you remember what day it was?" The Marquis's face was the color of a pig's liver. His lips moved, but no words came out. He had signed the date himself. The entire capital knew. This was irrefutable proof. My gaze finally moved from the dais to the newlyweds. I looked at him and said, word for word, "This child is not the eldest cousin's posthumous child at all." "So, Jingxing, can you tell me? The woman you are marrying today, whose child is in her womb, the one you are so righteously and hastily caring for, is it your cousin's child, or your own?" This final question was like the sharpest sword of judgment, plunging straight into the hearts of the Xia family. With a clatter, the imperial green jade rui scepter finally slipped from his grasp, shattering on the floor, just like the face of the Marquis of Anyuan's residence today, shattered beyond repair. "Ah!" She let out a piercing shriek, tore off her veil, revealing a tear-streaked, deathly pale face. She pointed at me, her voice shrill. "Shen Qingyan, you are spewing venom. You are jealous of his affection for me. You can't have his heart, so you want to destroy us." Even at this point, she was still trying to use love as a shield. "How ridiculous!" I sneered, my voice suddenly rising, drowning out her shriek. "Affection. What kind of affection is it to be having an affair with your late husband's cousin before his bones are even cold? What kind of affection is it to become pregnant with a bastard child that cannot see the light of day, and to try and pass it off as a posthumous child? What kind of affection is it to make my fiancé less than a month before our wedding, for the sake of the bastard in your womb, disregard the face of my Shen family, and rush into this absurd marriage? Su Liang Shui, tell me, is this what you call affection? This is not affection. This is adultery, shamelessness, debauchery, a disgrace to your family." My words were like knives, every sentence drawing blood. The entire hall of guests heard them clearly. Their expressions were no longer those of spectators, but of utter contempt and anger. Noble families valued face and decorum above all else. A man sleeping with his brother's widow, a disregard for all morality. This was a monstrous scandal. She swayed, and unable to catch her breath, her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. He clumsily caught her but didn't dare to look at me. He just roared at his parents on the dais. "Father, mother, get this madwoman out of here. Get her out, madwoman." I laughed even harder. "Get me out." Zhi Jingxing, have you forgotten that I, Shen Qingyan, am the one with whom you have a proper betrothal, a marriage contract, and who is to be your rightful wife? Today, in front of all the guests of the capital, you have given me such a grand surprise. And now, you want to throw me out, close the doors, and continue your joyous occasion. There is no such easy thing in this world. I no longer looked at the disgusting pair but turned to the ashen-faced old madam and the marquis. My voice returned to its initial calm but was laced with a chilling coldness. Old madam, your lordship. Today I have seen everything clearly. Your family's deep affection and righteousness, my Shen family is not worthy of. I slowly took out a pre-written letter of annulment from my sleeve. Under the gaze of everyone, I walked to the altar and slammed it down. I, Shen Qingyan, today, in front of all the esteemed guests, formally announce the marriage contract between me and Shi Jingxing of the Xie family is hereby annulled. From this day on, we will go our separate ways. From now on, I, Shen Qingyan, will have no more connection with your Marquis of Anyuan's residence. My voice echoed through the hall. Everyone was stunned by my action. Since ancient times, for a woman to be divorced was a great humiliation. For a woman to publicly annul her own engagement, I was the first. How dare you? The Marquis slammed his hand on the table, finally exploding. Shen Qingyan, do not push us too far. A matter of marriage is not for you to decide. I looked at him coldly. Your lordship, with a man sleeping with his brother's widow in your own residence, such a scandalous affair, you still have the face to talk to me about a matter of marriage. Not just me, but even if my father or my older brother were here, they would only say, my Shen family cannot afford this humiliation. This engagement is annulled. I paused, my gaze sweeping over the pile of green jade fragments on the floor. My voice even colder. Not only is the engagement annulled, according to the laws of the Great Zhou, if the man's immoral conduct makes the marriage impossible, he must return 10 times the betrothal gifts and compensate the woman for the damage to her reputation. Within 3 days, I expect to see the list of betrothal gifts at my residence, along with the corresponding compensation. If even 1 cent is missing, I will personally come to your door again with a lawsuit from the capital magistrate. At that time, we will settle the matter of this 15-month pregnancy in court. You, the Marquis choked, a mouthful of blood rising in his throat, but he was at a loss for words. When I was done, I didn't give them another glance. I turned, flicked my sleeve, and left. When I arrived, I had been graceful, a picture of elegance. When I left, I was filled with a proud integrity, walking on level ground. Behind me were the shouts of the Xie family, the uproar of the guests, a wedding that had become a complete joke. None of it had anything to do with me anymore. The moment I walked out of the Marquise's residence, the sunlight fell on me. I let out a long sigh, so satisfying. When I returned to the Shen family's residence, the atmosphere was already tense. My father, the current prime minister, Shen Conjuan, and my older brother, the Marquis of Guanjun, who commanded the capital's forces, Shen Qinghe, were both sitting in the main hall, their faces grim. When they saw me, they immediately stood up. My father's eyes were filled with both pity and anger. My brother was more direct. With a shing, he drew his sword, the blade glinting. Sister, you have been wronged. I will go right now and trample that Marquis of Anyuan's residence to avenge you. I shook my head, walked up to them, and curtsied. Father, brother, I have been unfilial and have brought shame upon you. My father quickly helped me up, sighing, his voice full of self-blame. Silly child, what are you talking about? It was I who was a poor judge of character and almost pushed you into a fiery pit. I should be the one to apologize. Yenner, what did you do at the Xie residence? He asked, a hint of worry in his eyes. I recounted everything that had happened in the wedding hall. I spoke calmly, without embellishment or self-pity, but when I said, I publicly annulled the engagement and demanded they return 10 times the betrothal gifts within 3 days, my usually unflappable father and my decisive brother were both stunned. They looked at me with shock and a hint of undeniable admiration. After a long pause, My brother sheathed his sword and laughed heartily. Good, as expected of my sister. A good annulment, a good scolding. This is a true daughter of the Shen family. Revenge is taken on the spot. No hesitation. My father also stroked his beard, his furrowed brow finally relaxing, his eyes full of relief. Qingyan, you did the right thing. For the Shi family to act in such a way, they have brought about their own destruction. If we were to endure it in silence, we would become a laughingstock. He paused, a sharp glint in his eyes. But just an annulment and compensation are not nearly enough. For them to dare to humiliate my daughter in such a way, they must be prepared to face the full wrath of the Shen family. I saw the killing intent in my father's and brother's eyes. I knew that the reckoning for the Xia family had just begun. A fire that I had started would now be fanned into a raging inferno by my family. The next day at the morning court session, the atmosphere in the throne room was tense. The Marquis of Annuling, Shi Yuan, had forced himself to attend, but his face was paler than a dead man's overnight. The monstrous scandal of his family had spread through every street and alley of the capital. When he walked, he could feel the mocking and contemptuous gazes from all around. At court, his colleagues avoided him as if he were carrying a plague. The court session began as usual. Just as he was thinking that the Shen family might, for the sake of a little remaining decency, handle the matter privately, my father, the current Prime Minister, Shen Conjuan, stepped forward. He held his jade tablet, his expression solemn. Your Majesty, I have a memorial to present. The Emperor, on the throne, said flatly. Speak, Prime Minister. I wish to impeach the Marquis of Anyu Yuan. The court was in an uproar. The Marquis was as if struck by lightning, his head shooting up in disbelief. My father didn't even look at him, his voice ringing through the throne room. The Marquis of Anyuan, a first-rank Marquis of the court, has failed to manage his household. His family's morals are corrupt, and he has condoned his son, Shi Jingxing, in an act of incest with his widowed cousin-in-law, resulting in an illegitimate pregnancy. Even worse, to cover up this scandal, on the eve of his wedding, he used the name of co-wife to carry out this shameful act, publicly humiliating my family, and disregarding the face of the imperial family, and the laws of the court. How can such a person of corrupt morals and a debauched family hold a high position and command troops? The ancients said. Cultivate oneself, manage one's family, govern the state and bring peace to the world. If one cannot even manage one's family, how can one govern the state? I implore your Majesty to thoroughly investigate this matter, to strip him of his title and post, to uphold justice, and to serve as a warning to others. My father's words were powerful, every word a heavy blow to the Marquis's head. He did not mention the private grievance between our two families, only family morals, the law, and the face of the court. In an instant, he had elevated a private scandal to a matter of national importance. The Marquis fell to his knees with a thud, a cold sweat beading on his forehead. Your Majesty, the Prime Minister is slandering me. This is a personal vendetta. Before the Emperor could speak, the censor-in-chief stepped forward. I second the motion. The matter of the Marquis of Anyuan's residence has become the laughingstock of the capital and has seriously damaged the reputation of our officials. If it is not severely punished, how can we maintain public trust? Then, the Minister of Rights, the Vice Minister of Justice, one after another, officials all my father's protfefes, stepped forward. In a moment, the memorials impeaching the Marquis were like a snowstorm. The entire court had become a public trial of the Xia family. On the throne, the Emperor's face was as dark as a thundercloud. He valued the imperial family's face above all else. The marriage between the two families had been his own personal approval. Now for the Xia family to cause such a scandal, it was not just a slap to the Shen family's face, but to his own. Marquis of Anyuan Shiyuan? The Emperor's voice was ice cold. For failing to manage your household and for your corrupt morals, you are hereby suspended from your duties and fined 3 years' salary. Your son, Shi Jingxing, for his depraved conduct, is forever barred from holding public office. This matter is to be thoroughly investigated by the imperial clan court and the capital magistrate. The emperor's judgment was swift and decisive, forever barred from holding public office. Those words had completely destroyed his future. The Marquis collapsed to the floor, his face ashen. He knew it was over. The Xia family was over. And this was just the beginning. The storm at court was only the first step of our plan. The real killing blow was outside the court. My older brother, Shen Qinghe, was not only the Marquis of Guanjun and held military power, but he also managed the Shen family's businesses, which were spread throughout the country. He was an imperial merchant. The Xia family's main source of income was a few silk shops in the south of the city, and a few estates in the suburbs. In the past, these businesses had, to some extent, benefited from their connection to our Shen family. Now, that benefit had turned into a direct attack. My brother's first order was to cut off the supply of raw silk to all of the Xi family's silk shops. Our family's caravans controlled the best source of raw silk from the south. With one order, their silk shops were left with no raw materials. Then, my brother instructed the largest cloth merchants in the capital to simultaneously lower their prices by 30%, and to introduce newer, more beautiful fabrics. In a moment, their silk shops were deserted. Within 3 days, their warehouses were full, and their funds were frozen. At the same time, their estates in the suburbs also ran into trouble. The grain merchants who had worked with them for years suddenly canceled all their orders. They would rather pay a penalty than take a single grain of rice from the Xia family. Because every grain merchant in the capital knew that to offend the Shen family was to cut off their own livelihood. Their steward was frantic but could find no help. With internal and external troubles, the finances of the Marquis of Anyuan's residence quickly collapsed. Creditors and moneylenders, sensing the opportunity, all came to demand payment. The once bustling residence was now only visited by debt collectors. My brother's methods were swift, precise, and ruthless. He gave them no room to breathe. He didn't want them to slowly decline. He wanted to pull the rug out from under them, to make them collapse overnight. I sat in my residence, listening to Yunju's daily reports. My lady, I hear the Xi family has started selling their property. My lady, I hear the Marquis's hair has turned white overnight, and he has fallen ill. My lady, I hear the Xi heir and that Miss Su had a huge fight and even came to blows. I took a sip of my tea, my face impassive. All of this was within my expectations. So-called deep affection and righteousness, when crushed by reality, would only turn into the ugliest of mutual accusations and resentment. Their good show was still to come. The double blow of economic and political ruin was just the external wound. The real torture was the isolation from the entire capital's elite. My Shen family had made it known. Whoever was friends with the Xia family was an enemy of the Shen family. No one dared to challenge the weight of those words. The Xia family had already angered the emperor and was on a downward spiral. Why offend the rising Shen family for a family with no future? Overnight, the Marquis of Anyuan's residence became an island in the capital. No one visited. All invitations to banquets now bypassed them. The colleagues who had once called Shi Yuan brother now pretended not to know him on the street. The noble woman who had once flattered the Marquis now gathered to gossip about the Xia family's scandal. Their words filled with contempt and disdain. Did you hear? That Su Liangshui's child. The dates don't add up. My heavens, so shameless. A man sleeping with his brother's widow. How could they? I know, right. And they wanted the Shen family's daughter to accept it. A toad wanting to eat swan meat. Now they've lost their careers, and their fortune is almost gone. It is karma. These rumors were like invisible knives, cutting into the hearts of the Xia family. He dared not go out. The moment he did, he would be pointed at and whispered about. And she, with the child in her belly, was nailed to the pillar of shame. She became the most famous adulteress in the capital, a cautionary tale for all noblewomen to tell their daughters. Abandoned by all, and a subject of malicious gossip. This was the cruelest punishment for people who valued face above all else. The 3-day deadline was up. The Xia family sent someone to our residence with 10 times the betrothal gifts and the compensation. Their heads bowed in shame. I looked at the several large chests of gold, silver, and jewels, and the list of betrothal gifts I had sent. I found it incredibly ironic. For an unchaste woman and a bastard child, they had not only ruined their careers and lost their fortune, but had also ended up in utter disgrace. I wonder if now, in the middle of the night, he ever regrets the foolish decision he made for so-called love and responsibility. But his regret had nothing to do with me. I only knew that my revenge was not yet over. The Xia family's life descended into hell. The fine clothes and food were replaced by simple meals. The crowd of servants had been dismissed, leaving only a few old retainers who were bound by a death contract. The huge change in their circumstances caused the conflict between him and her to erupt completely. Without the trappings of wealth, their so-called love revealed its ugliest face. "It is all your fault. If you hadn't used your pregnancy to force me, we wouldn't be in this mess," he, drunk, pointed at her and cursed. "My future, my career, it has all been ruined by you and this bastard." She, with her large belly, cried her heart out. "Shi Jing-sing, are you even human? Who was it that whispered sweet nothings in my ear? Who was it that climbed into my bed and said he would be responsible, that he would give me a title? Now that there is trouble, you're blaming it all on a weak woman like me. If you had just had the guts to properly apologize to Shen Qingyan, we wouldn't be in this situation." "Apologize? How can I apologize? Do you want me to kneel and beg her?" He kicked over a table, his eyes red. "She is a mad woman, a venomous woman. She just wants to see us die." The argument turned into a physical fight. He vented all his resentment and unwillingness on her. The pity and admiration he once had were gone, replaced by disgust and hatred. Her life was a living hell. Not only did she have to endure his beatings, but she also had to face the venomous glares of the old madam and the marquise. In their eyes, she was the one who had ruined the Xia family. A fox spirit, a jinx. The leftovers were all she was given. The slightest mistake would result in a torrent of abuse. The child in her womb, once her ticket to a higher status, was now a death sentence. Every kick was a reminder to everyone of the scandal. Amid the endless arguments and torture, she went into labor prematurely. She gave her all and gave birth to a boy, but the child's birth brought no joy to the family. He looked like him. This was the irrefutable proof of their adultery. He looked at the child, and there was no fatherly joy in his eyes, only endless loathing. He knew that as long as this child existed, he would never be able to hold his head up again. While the Xia family was in turmoil, a laughingstock of the capital, Shen Qingyan, was reborn. The annulment, instead of damaging my reputation, had earned me a name for being decisive, ruthless, and a good judge of character. Those who had once thought me weak and easily bullied now treated me with respect and awe. And the far-sighted noble families saw the immeasurable power and protective nature of the Shen family behind me. In a moment, the matchmakers at my door were almost breaking it down. The portraits of young men filled my desk. There were brilliant scholars, young and successful genera,